It's the 14th of August, which means we're exactly 364 days or just 1 day short of the anniversary of the unveiling of the second generation Thar, which obviously was done on the 15th of August, Independence Day 2020. Now, we all know what a massive success the new Thar has been, with a whole bunch of people asking us for allocations out of turn. Sadly, we just can't help you. Now, this though is a great time to tell all of you a probably unheard, and for most of you an unknown story of how the Thar actually came to be. This then is the story of the Thar. Now, while most of you know me as Cyrus Dhabhar from PowerDrift or from other publications in the past, what some of you don't know is that I grew up in a proper automotive family, a motorsport family some might call it. And my dad, well, my late father, was in some way or the other sort of the father of the Thar. Now, I've said this in other videos I've done in other places, but this is a more personal approach. This is a more personal story time for all of you to really know what went on behind the scenes of when the Thar was made, a perspective that you probably won't get anywhere else. Now, to tell you the story of the Thar, I need to actually rewind everything to the late 70s, or in fact, let's start off at the early 80s. Now, the early 80s were the absolute heyday of Indian motorsport, with the Himalayan Valley, a world rally stage for some, with some of the greatest rally cars and some of the greatest rally legends coming to India and driving. Now, this was a great chance for automakers in India to prove their mettle against some of the more privately owned race teams or some of the more international race teams, and some of them did. One of those manufacturer-backed or works teams, as we would call them, was Mahindra. Now, in 1983, Mahindra entered as a works team in the Himalayan Rally, and they entered a team with 3 people: my dad, Behram Dhabhar, Sunil Shanbag, and of course Farhad Bhatina, who then went on to win many national championships. They started 73rd on the grid, and they finished overall at the end of the rally, which is the most grueling rally India has probably ever seen, in 13th place. The first 11 cars were imports. They were international, full-blown rally cars. The 12th finisher was a Premier Padmini, and so was the 14th. Now, the Jeep in question was a CJ4A. It was a petrol-powered CJ4A, but without four-wheel drive, because honestly, you didn't really need it. The sort of momentum was better because the weight was lower in the two-wheel drive vehicle. Now, this win was when my dad was actually a part of Mahindra right in the early 80s. This was also, you could say, the beginning of this dream that he had. A very, very powerful Jeep, which looked like a Jeep but was very capable, with a bigger engine, more powerful engine, and his desire to go off-road was still there, so he wanted four-wheel drive to be standard. Now, of course, he didn't want the extended Jeep chassis like the CJ4A was. He wanted the more compact MM540, and later became the Thar. Our SUV's engines undergo a lot of stress, both in city driving and on tough terrains, particularly during warm-up in stop-start traffic, and of course while carrying heavy loads. Ordinary car oils may not be enough for your SUV, and that is why we recommend fully synthetic Castrol magnetic SUV for superior protection. Let's fast forward though to the mid-1990s, when in 1996 Mahindra introduced something called the Great Escape. Now, Mahindra Adventure as it is today is essentially an evolution of what the Great Escape was. The Great Escape was basically a whole bunch of absolutely bonkers off-roaders going on some insane trails and going on some insane adventures completely off-road, and making a day or a weekend out of it in some cases. This purpose, he had what was a CL340, which is a short wheelbase Jeep, which was actually modified by DC with a custom body, and that short wheelbase meant it could go anywhere. But that one thing that was lacking was a whole bunch of power. Those engines, those diesel engines, were archaic at best, and they honestly just weren't enough. They were enough off-road, because obviously you don't need a lot of power or momentum off-road, but getting to and fro from the off-road location, it just didn't cut it for my dad. Fast forward even more, and maybe in the mid or late 2000s, a little bit of a seed started to sow, and a little bit of a tree started to sprout in his head. He wanted to take an MM540, put the Bolero VLX or the Bolero CRD front underneath it, put a big 2.5 liter CRD engine in it, over 100 horsepower, and go off-roading. And thus was born the legendary MH01V521, the godfather of all Mahindra Thars in India. Now, this Jeep is essentially the first ever prototype Jeep that was used for all the testing, all the off-road drives, all the highway trials, and everything else in between that you can imagine. And I have spent days and days and days in the passenger seat of this vehicle, driving across the length and breadth of the country, on road, off road, where there's no trails at all, getting stuck in the middle of nowhere, and everything in the middle. Now, this is also what prompted the Thar as we know it today. But there are, of course, a whole bunch of things that we need to mention before we mention the launch, which was in December 2010. Now, the Thar story is honestly incomplete without mentioning the Team BHP forum, because it was on Team BHP that my dad put out a thread asking people what they wanted in their ideal MM540. He collated all those answers, which incidentally there are more than 300 of, and more than 150,000 or 200,000 views or something. He collated all those answers, made a spreadsheet, and presented it to the board saying, look, there is a market for an enthusiast Jeep-like vehicle, which looks like a Jeep but has a modern engine. Please, let's make it. Obviously, he was met with a little bit of hesitation, but he soldiered on and went on developing it till he got the green light from none other than Anand Mahindra one day. That said, what did happen was, come 2010, the Thar officially was launched in India in two variants. Now, the first variant, the more affordable variant, was the two-wheel drive DI, or the direct injection motor. Still 2.5 liters, little bit of horsepower. It was meant for the agricultural audience. It was meant for somebody who wanted to move around a bunch of stuff in the back, somebody in the village areas, somebody who wanted to go farming and wanted a Jeep or something that looked like a Jeep, just as a rugged vehicle. The other one, of course, the one we know and have come to love, was the Thar CRD. This was launched at, wait for it, 5.99 lakhs, ex-showroom. Yup, you heard it right, 5.99 lakhs in 2010. And incidentally, if you go and try and get one from 2010 today, they haven't depreciated a lot either. That said, this one was, of course, the 2.5 CRD, made 105 horsepower, just a smidge under 250 Newton meters of torque, had four-wheel drive, had a soft top cabin, did not have AC to begin with. Now, Mahindra officially claims, and I know this is going to be maybe a controversial statement, officially, Mahindra claims that the allocation or the budget for the Thar was about 5 crore rupees to begin with. In comparison, the XUV 500 or the XUV 500 as it is known was several thousand crores. But the molds were all ready. The chassis was ready because the Bolero VLX used the front chassis, the double cab Bolero used the rear bits. So what it was an amalgamation of parts all sort of got together like a piece of Lego and it made into something that was really, really cool. Now, as I mentioned, this is going to be a little controversial. Mahindra claims it was 5 crore rupees. I can tell you for a fact, and I can put my neck on the line, that that figure was much, much less. Now, yes, it shows. The dashboard was, well, a molded piece of single plastic, and it just wasn't going to cut it with the urban audience. But a whole bunch of people still went and bought it because it was cool. It was extremely, extremely cool. A Jeep-like vehicle that could do 140 kilometers on the highway, that could still go off-road, still look cool. You could still put a bunch of hellas in the front. You could still put a big set of wheels on the side, put big tires and look like, well, if you want to look cool on Marine Drive doing it, you could look cool there. If you want to look cool in the middle of absolutely nowhere in Pauna, mud plugging, you could look cool there as well. That's the audience that it targeted. And of course, it went straight through the roof. Mahindra thought they'd sell at most a couple of 100 cars a month, if even that. What they ended up selling is, in a period of about 10 years, over 1 lakh vehicles. Now, there was a facelift, or a, well, not a facelift, an update that came out in 2012 that had air conditioning. And that, of course, was the start of another big wave of people who really could not have a car without air conditioning. Like me, for example. I would have never bought the first generation one, even if I could have afforded one. Because a car without AC in Mumbai, are you kidding? There's no chance that's going to happen. 2015, though, was when another facelift came out. And this time, Mahindra knew they had a winner on their hands. Now remember this, you think there's a waiting period now for the new Thar? There was a waiting period for the old Thar as well, almost all through its life cycle. They were doing on average about 800 or 1,000 units a month, give or take. And that for a car which is a recreational toy is a great figure. I mean, there are full-fledged SUVs sedans and hatchbacks that even today don't do that kind of figure, even though they're an absolutely great mainstream product. So for something that agricultural and archaic, and honestly something that didn't appeal to everybody but appealed to people like me who want to have chest hair and who want to dream of having a ponytail and a cowboy hat and a gun all the time, that's the kind of audience it appealed to. But it also appealed to people who were normal family people who wanted this vision of being cool. And that's what the Thar did so well. Obviously, it's done even better now. But let's still rewind that back. 2015 is when that first facelift came out. You had a different bumper. And most importantly, the interior was finally upgraded to a better dashboard. Now, there are some other stories which maybe we can get into. Again, a bit of a rewind. I know I'm jumping through the timeline a little bit, but this one is important because this is what appealed and what told all the hardcore off-roaders out there that the Thar was not a mall crawler. It was the real deal. It's 2009. It's the rainy season. It's an event called the EXAMM, or the Extreme Off-Roaders Annual Monsoon Mania, and the day after that is the AKC, or the Alpha Kilo Challenge. At its time, the biggest, most difficult and the best off-road challenge India had ever seen. MH01 V521 was to come down from Nasik, because of course that's where R&D Mahindra and a secret Mahindra Special Vehicles division, it's not talked about but it did exist, was based. The night before it was supposed to come, they've checked the car, they've readied the car, well, the evening before, and then they found out that somebody's actually gone and filled a whole bunch of oil in the car, rendering the engine absolutely useless because somebody cranked it over and the engine went kaput. The engine was changed overnight with a new one. They did 1,000 kilometers of running in through the night, and at 7 in the morning, MH01 V521 was ready to rock and roll on the road leading up to Ambi Valley in Lonavala. I remember this huge smile on my dad's face when he drove in, completely drenched in sweat, even though it was raining outside, completely tired, having not slept for God knows how many hours, but he was raring to go. He wanted to show the world what the Thar could do. And it's at that event that the Thar opened everybody's eyes to what sheer horsepower and sheer torque as compared to what the Gypsies were putting out, or CJ3Bs or early CJ4As, etc., were putting out, could actually do off-road. The first obstacle a CJ3B goes through, no issues. The Gypsies start going through, almost every single one of them has to be towed or winched back because they just can't make it through. I remember Dad asking me to hop into the passenger seat, going on that first obstacle and absolutely slaughtering it. Now this was done on highway tires. This was done for a point, to prove that even on highway tires, this car could do a lot more than what the idea of an off-roader could in general terms. I might look like I'm glorifying the car a little bit, but this is the kind of stuff that you wouldn't know if you weren't a part of a certain few forums back in the late 2000s. And it's my job and it's my duty, I think, to bring these stories out to you. So there you have it. It's the story of the Thar in as well as a sort of format that I could have told you. Do you have any more questions? Leave them in the comment section. I will answer every single one of them. If you want to reach out to me personally, you can do it on my Instagram. And again, I will answer each and every question personally. A big shout out, I think, is relevant to everybody who worked on the Thar at Mahindra at the time, to all the off-roaders who supported, and well, some who didn't support the movement back in the day, and to everybody who, of course, went and bought the Thar. I'm sure my dad is smiling down on all of you, proud of what he did. So there you go. That's the story of the Thar. It's me signing off from PowerDrift. As always, do remember, subscribe, press the bell icon, and leave all those questions below. I will answer every one of them. Thank you so much for watching.